What is happening, everyone? Happy Thursday. I don't even know what time of I don't even know what day of the week it is sometimes. I gotta look at my little deal in the top right corner there for the date and time. It's been a blast of a week, as it has been for the last 3 weeks or so. Hope you all are enjoying the fun time in this ecosystem. It's not always going to be this way. Just kidding. It's probably always going to be this way. It's going to be a good time. Today, Jesse's on the show. You know, when we have Jesse on the show, we get a little technical. I mean, not the only one, but I like deep diving with Jesse because he brings some nuance that I think is very, very interesting and very sharp in a lot of ways. So very excited to get into the weeds with him on that. PulseChain, we'll talk about Shanghai. PortalX, we'll do a baby demo, not like a full MetaMask demo, but we'll do a baby demo as well. Bring all our PowerCity questions. We'll talk about Michael Light win launch. We'll talk about that as well, and we'll get started. So we talk to the chat, and we'll bring him in. Stephen R, welcome on. Hey, DCC time, yeah, I know. I was the guest on DCC 2 weeks ago, and it did not start on time, but that's cool. I mean, you can't rush good shows, right? That's my my hostess spirit. Don't rush the good shows, I guess. Jamie Barker, welcome. Glad to see you. Yep, smash all the buttons if you would like to do. Definitely helps the show. Michael Light win launch. We'll ask Jesse that. I'm sure we'll get to it in some context, but maybe it's in 2 more weeks. You never know. Shout out to Chris Psychedelics. I'm gonna drop his link in the chat. He's got all kinds of cool merch, and appreciate the hat and all that. So I told him I'd give him a shout out and stuff. He's got a lot of cool stuff on the website, so check that out if you're interested. Win show, sir. Yes, we answer your questions. Glad we could do that. Okari, welcome. What's up, new to the channel? Welcome, John Neese. I hope you found some value in the channel. We've been growing, so that's good. Getting the message out to more people and all this stuff. Wild spike. Win V5. You never know. That's true. Real talk right there. Can you talk about your thoughts, Erica Wall interview? He just did, by the way. I did watch a clip from that. I didn't watch the whole thing, but we'll get into it. Remind me a little bit later if I forget to scroll back up on that one. PulseX, yeah, we're definitely getting that. Randy, welcome. Fox Modder, hello. We'll leave it there. We'll bring in our guests. Welcome back to the show for the 4th time. Just Ask Jesse.
How y'all doing?
I saw it's 4 because I keep track of in my Final Cut Pro and my folders where I download the videos, and I saw Jesse-03, and I'm like, I got to make a new folder, Jesse-04. Here we go.
All right. We're going to talk about some really cool stuff today. And by the way, when are you coming on our show?
Matt did reach out to me. What is it? Sometime in like 2 weeks, I think. 2 weeks or so. Yeah. Matt, you got Matt from not Liquid Loans, Matt from PowerCity now. That's been a change. I love seeing you two on stream the other day. That was fun. I was like, whoa, that's different than it was a year or so ago. Lots of things changing. People, at least you're staying in the same ecosystem though. You know, people going back and forth, that's cool. As long as you don't leave the ecosystem. Like that's what we don't want. We don't want the good people to leave, you know.
Right.
So super fun. Sorry, hello from Taiwan. I love Taiwan, by the way. Shout out to Taiwan and all the stuff they do in Taiwan. A lot of very important place, and love visiting and all that stuff. Appreciate the comment as well. ATX Crypto, yeah, ATX was on last night. So yeah, that was a good show as well. We'll keep it on Fox for now, though. Jesse, first, before we get into PortalX, I got it pulled up here. We'll walk through a baby demo as well. But Shanghai, there was no fireworks yesterday, or were there? What happened? Like, can you just briefly, like, what is Shanghai? What happened yesterday, or what's in the middle of happening now? And like, what's PulseChain got to do with it? What do you think Richard's going to do around the event?
Well, you've got all these people who are staking, you know, into the whole ETH 2.0 system, and there was no mechanism for them to unstake. I think ETH the devs wanted to just make sure they had, you know, enough staking and enough people supporting the ecosystem, so they kind of kept everybody locked up for at least through that merge that happened several months back. And so then, you know, this date was approaching, and the date shifted a few times, if I recall, of when, you know, the Shanghai update would release. which would allow stakers to start unstaking. And there's tons of speculation that, all these people are going to dump their tokens and stuff. And that's not what happened. It's pretty like non-eventful. Like nothing's really happening regarding like price, and there's not mass dumpage or anything like that. And I think if you look at the chart, I think a lot of those stakers may have like got in at like, I don't know, $400 or something, and ETH is now just over 2,000. I think an hour ago it was like $2,013 or something, maybe $2,017. So they're not like terribly, there's like a little 4x there, a little over a 4x, maybe a 5x there.
You don't think the Brit pleb's selling on a 4x or 5x? You don't think?
Yeah, this but not the people who are running, the people who are like running validators and staking and doing that sort of thing, they're not a different breed of people. They're just a different breed of people. They're people who are just holding anyway for a long time. So what you're seeing right now is now that the general public is like, oh, sweet, I can actually stake my coins and unstake them whenever I want now. You're actually seeing more people just take their ETH and stake. And I think there's like pools and smart contracts and all sorts of stuff you can contribute into. You might even be able to do it straight through places like Coinbase, where it kind of happens in the background for you without you having to set up stuff. So now people are like, oh, sweet, I can stake my ETH and not worry about it being locked up for years. So now more people are just taking the ETH they already have and just locking it up because they want some sort of yield. So it's pretty just non-eventful. There's not really any mass dumpage. The price really isn't like going to the moon or anything. It's just, oh, okay, cool. The stakes aren't locked anymore.
Right. What does that do? Because I mean, there's been a lot of speculation around. Richard was talking about V4 this week, and even as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, it says this week. I'm thinking Shanghai. It's happening Wednesday, Thursday, and maybe the next week or so if we're lucky. But does this change? Do you think he's planning anything around Shanghai? Do you think it's going to be unlocked? We're going to fork from that version. He's going to wait a few days. How do you think that's going to play out with PulseChain?
I'm sure like he's not going to like keep all. Well, for one, everything that's copied over. The people who are holding ETH who get the copy, but the fixer bot's going to buy their ETH from them. I don't know that the fixer bot is able to. This is actually an interesting topic I haven't even thought about, but the fixer bot's going to go around to places like Uniswap and SushiSwap, and it's going to buy PRC20s and then redeploy them as Liquidity and PulseX. And then you're also going to have all the ETH holders who are going to have their ETH exchanged out, as so to speak, for instead of having ETH on PulseChain, they're going to have Pulse on PulseChain. How does that look when they have stuff locked up that's no longer locked up, for staking their ETH? I have no idea. I have no idea what any of that's going to look like. But Richard can now grab whatever code they're using for Shanghai, put it into PulseChain. Shouldn't be too hard to implement the update. And then when PulseChain launches, people can stake and unstake at will with their Pulse.
Do you think we are going to take the Shanghai update for V4?
I would hope so. The longer you wait for updates, just the more behind you get, and eventually you're going to have to do those updates anyway. Right. I even think some updates require you to go through each one of them one at a time, right? Can you skip certain ones? Well, what if certain ones are reliant on the other ones, right? So, I think in a perfect world, and by the way, I'm not a dev. I'm just, I'm with devs every day, but as updates come out, you want to push those updates all kind of in order.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I hadn't thought about if you skip, so Shanghai, I assume that's the EIP, right? EIP something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Well, so there's two ways to think about this. One, the train of thought is we can take whatever EIPs we want, PIPs, I guess, for PulseChain.
Yeah,
And
unless there's some that are reliant on other ones, right?
exactly, unless they have dependencies, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Be interesting. Yeah. Is there any reason, like, I don't think it's happening this week. Could happen tomorrow, blow me out of the water, whatever. But it would seem like he would wait a few days or so, make sure everything is good with Shanghai, even though what could go wrong, like worst case, there's a bug that you can't unlock stuff or something. It doesn't seem that risky of an update. Nothing like changing the consensus mechanism and all that stuff. Yeah. So you think V4, whenever it comes out, probably next week, I'm guessing. We'll have Shanghai update. Okay.
I would hope that it would, but who knows?
Yeah. So you were kind of hitting on it too. That's why I pulled this up. I really want to talk about this because after me and David talked the other day or a couple weeks ago, I had NT Fryer reach out and tag us and say, FYI on the Uniswap V3 positions, using synergies, Alchemy Hedrons, front end for Uniswap, testnet V3, my non-ETH LP positions, the non-ETH ones, came over just fine, could interact, maintain them just as the Ethereum network. And then Alex confirmed this as well, or I guess added on to it. Pretty sure only the ETH pairs are intended to be harvested. So for example, X USDC LP would not be, since ETH USDC and ETH Hex are harvested, then a crazy situation, I guess, could happen from that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so that makes sense. So check it out. ETH has a certain supply of the native gas coin, and PulseChain has a certain supply of its native gas coin, but it's very different. It's 1,000,000 to 1 or whatever it is, right? So there has to be 1,000,000 times more ETH accounted for and put into the right places on PulseChain. So when you copy over all these pairs, if it's just two ERC20s paired together, that doesn't need to be, like, nothing needs to change, right? There's no supply difference across the two chains. If there's a token that had a supply of 17 million, there's going to be 17 million of those tokens on PulseChain. And then if it was paired to a different token that had a supply of 10 million tokens, well, there's already going to be 10 million of those tokens on PulseChain. And then those ratios and those pools don't really need to change to account for their value across each other, right? This many of this token should still be tradable for whatever percentage of this many of this token. So those ratios over in Uniswap of ERCs to ERC20, copy over to PulseChain, nothing needs to change. Those ratios stay intact. But what does need to be accounted for is anything that's paired back to ETH on Ethereum chain. You can't keep that same ratio on PulseChain because you'd have like a massive supply difference outside of that pool. That means that ratio is just way skewed by like 1,000,000x or something, right? Copy over everything and just leave it intact, and you have way less pulse than you're supposed to have in that pool because the supply difference is so much greater.
Mm-hmm.
Like if one chain was a chain that was denominated in $1, and that, don't think of the value of $1. Just like, $1, but there's 100 pennies in $1, 100 cents in $1. And if PulseChain was, a chain denominated in pennies, you would want to see wherever there used to be $1, instead now there's 100 pennies, right? Otherwise, the ratio is wrong. So what you do is you simply, everything copies over, and then you're like, okay, how do I fix that ratio? How do I correct it because of the supply difference in the native coin? And all that has to happen and will happen is a smart contract or a bot runs around with a supply of pulse that it already owns and it uses that to start buying up all the PRC20s out of the popular dexes, such as Uniswap and SushiSwap and maybe even some of the Aave pools or whatnot. I have no idea. It's not going to hit all the pools, but it's going to hit a lot of the popular ones. And then now that entity or that, code that somebody's pre-written now owns all those PRC20s and is welcome to pair those back into a new DEX, PulseX, at the correct ratio. So it takes those PRC20s, it takes some of the Pulse, and it deposits those and creates a liquidity pool. And now that liquidity pool is the correct ratio. Now, depth of that pool may not be the same. Maybe there will be some scaling into the depth. Maybe it'll be a fixed depth at the beginning. Nobody really knows. I think Richard's figuring some of that stuff out right now.
Okay. But the general advice so far has been, hey, if you're providing liquidity for tokens such as Hex and stuff, pull it before mainnet, because you may not get access to, you may not get your copies, all that stuff. But it sounds like
you could actually get a good deal. So what if your intention is you wanted to, let's think about this for a second. Let's say your intention is you wanted to acquire Pulse. And on ETH chain, you happen to have some ETH and you happen to have some, token, maybe Hex. Well, theoretically, you could pair those two things together, hold that through the fork, because what's going to happen on the other side on PulseChain is somebody's going to buy all that Hex from you, and they're going to leave you some Pulse. The fixer bot has to buy that Hex from your smart contracted position. It can't just steal it from you and rip it out of your wallet, right? So it literally has to interact with those Uniswap contracts, depositing some Pulse and taking away your Hex, leaving you with Pulse.
But not a lot of Pulse.
Have your original Hex on the ETH chain and your original ETH, and you're welcome to swap back into whatever you want. But when you show up to PulseChain, you'll find if you use the front end like Alex's Uniswap front end that he'll connect in, you go to withdraw your liquidity and you have way more Pulse and like almost no Hex left. You just got left with Pulse because the bot bought all your Hex from you. You might be muted. There you go.
Yeah, I was saying, I think that's the site, uniswap.hedron.pro, I think is Alex's instance that works with V3, I believe. So okay, that's one way, but wouldn't you get a worse deal? Like, wouldn't the fixer bot get a really good deal and not have to give you that much Pulse for your Hex?
It depends on how fast other people are, right? So that bot has to experience some slippage, so to speak, just like anybody else would. Right, so it has to buy through all the the slippage that it would normally be if it So if it's draining the pool or close to draining the pool that you're participating in as an LP, you could, you could theoretically try some things on Ethereum chain. You could put in an LP. Maybe single-sided LP with Hex like at a ridiculous price, like $1 or something, paired back to ETH. Or set it at like $2 paired back to ETH. We don't know how far into those pools that fixer bot's going to buy, right? So you could just go above the current market price. You could go, okay, it's 7 or 8 cents right now. Okay, set it at a 30 cent, set it at a 20 cent. Okay, maybe that fixer bot's going to come through and it's just going to buy and eat all the slippage to that whole pool, and it's actually going to give you a pretty good rate for your Hex and leave you with more Pulse than you would otherwise get. We just don't know. This is one way to acquire at least some Pulse. We'll never know how much Pulse until after people try it. Now, could that be a better or worse rate than somebody just holding Hex or holding anything and then dumping that if they wanted to for Pulse on the other side? Well, that's also dependent on the thickness of those pools, right? What if Richard launches those pools really thin so the slippage is really high? So when you're dumping it, you're the one eating the slippage instead of the fixer bot eating the slippage, right? So maybe it is a better rate to just have the fixer bot eat all the slippage and leave you some pulse. Then you dump that same token if you're holding it liquid to try and acquire pulse. We'll just never know until it all plays out.
Well, if you were to hold LP through the fork, wouldn't the strategy be to hold the pairs that you think will have some sort of value? If you can unwrap them in Uniswap afterwards, then you still get your copies and you can make the fees while all the chaos is happening. Wouldn't that be a play?
What do you believe will have value?
Well, for example, Hexhedron.
Sure. Yep, people will trade and there'll be a market for Hexahedron. What about
something like that?
What about some other random tokens that nobody ever talks about in the Hex community?
Well, I mean, the biggest pull is Hex USDC, but common understanding would be USDC is not wouldn't be the one you'd want to hold through the fork, for those reasons.
You're right, and it's also interesting to remember that Hex is primarily paired to USDC. So right now, Uniswap has like 3 Hex is paired to like 3.7 million USDC. It's paired to like $700,000 worth of ETH. So the bigger pool is USDC. That's going to copy over. But what does that look like? If there's 3.7 million USDC paired to Hex, but outside of that, you've got hundreds of millions of dollars worth of USDC that people might dump, there becomes this arbitrage where like Hex is going to go down, could go down significantly. Or if people are dumping USDC and it's like very easy to obtain and they do it fast, you could obtain millions of USDC and just go and just drain all the Hex out of that Uniswap pool really quickly. If Hex remains paired to USDC, I think we're in for some very high volatility in the first day of PulseChain. Because I do believe there will be lots and lots of dumping of USDC. If Hex is remaining paired to it, there's going to be some wild things happening with Hex.
So if you do an LP for Hex USDC or Hex ETH, those seem to be not ideal situations to hold through the fork.
Well, if you're LPing Hex to USDC, that actually could be a decent play. A horrible play, because people would be dumping their USDC, taking out the Hex, and leaving you with a whole bunch of USDC that everyone else has also dumped and is not even redeemable. And you can easily get millions of them for cheap, for nothing. So it could be dangerous to be an LP with Hex paired to USDC. We have hopes and dreams that it's going to be worth $1. It's never proven that that's even practical at all to even attempt to do. It's not redeemable. And the dollar, any stablecoin that wishes to maintain a peg to $1 happens solely because it's redeemable. Period. Yep. It has to be redeemable. If something's no longer redeemable, then the only thing that keeps it at $1 is complete speculation. But speculation on what? That it will become redeemable? No, because it won't. So there's no arbitrage where people would ever desire to buy it to bring it back up to $1 because they know they're going to be able to redeem it for $1 somewhere else. So when it dips in price, who's going to buy it back up to bring it to $1? Are you? If you find 75-cent copied USDC, are you going to buy that because you think it's a good deal, knowing that it's not redeemable?
Not 75 cents, maybe 1 cent or something like that.
Maybe 1 cent, because it'll USDC will find a value, but it might be very, very low, and it will become a degen thing that they're like, oh, it's 1 cent today, it's 2 cent tomorrow, it's a half a cent the next day, and people are just taking each other's money like a degen coin.
It'd be funny if like everyone decided it's worth 1 cent, so USDC coin it turned into US 1 cent coin, and like everyone trades it based on that.
If it goes low enough, maybe somebody will make it redeemable. Like, oh, okay, the copied USDC is now redeemable in my protocol for a penny, right? Like, so you could, like, there's some crazy things people could attempt to try, but it's going to be super volatile in the early days.
So Hex ETH getting scooped up by the AMM bot. Hex USDC, you think there's going to be a lot of sell pressure on USDC. So also probably not a good LP play. Maybe there's some super volatile fee generation stuff that's going on leading up to launch or during launch on the Ethereum side. But on the PulseChain side, you think it's going to get hammered?
I think a lot of things on PulseChain are going to get hammered. I think the things that are going to do well are going to be the natively launched things on the chain. So that's besides Hex, okay, because our community will make that copied Hex valuable. All right, like we've been talking about it for years. There's going to be a copy of Hex, and we are going to make it valuable. Right, we're going to buy it, and we're going to participate in liquidity, and we're just going to make it work, right? But I think besides Hex, the natively launched stuff, so that would be PulseX, that would be loan token, Watt, Fiat, all these things that are natively launching, that have a use case, that have communities behind them already, that have people like literally using these protocols. Those things are going to have value. But the things that are copied, we keep saying to ourselves that we want all these copies to be valuable, that we need people to come over and provide liquidity. Pair your copied, your bridged in thing to the copied thing to give it value. To give it value, to me, means exit liquidity. You have to remember, these are free. It's photocopied out of thin air. And the people who are getting those copies, like, sure, you could pair a copy to a bridged in thing at whatever ratio you want. It doesn't have to be 1-to-1. You could take link, copy, and pair it to link bridged in, and you could say, okay, it takes 100 copied link, to buy one real bridged in link. Okay, you could do that, but even doing that, you're introducing weird uncertainty and confusion to the markets, because now people go to those liquidity pools and they see link paired to link, and it's like, wow, why is these ratios all weird? And like normally what happens when things are out of whack to such a degree, people just dump their free thing for the copy thing, and they don't even care what the rate is. They just know that the real thing that was bridged in has real value. So I do think that most of the PRC20s, no matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we incentivize liquidity, and you will find incentivized liquidity pools, you will be incentivized to bring in some wrap things and pair them to some copy things. But you have to be very, very careful, because markets typically dump things that they got for free. Even Richard says that all the time. And I know he and we all want these copies to have value, but I don't I don't believe that 99% of them will be able to have value. I think most of them will dump. The natively launched protocols with teams behind them that are working, with communities that are excited, those are the things that will have value, and all the dumpage will flow into those things.
So the ones that I can think of two scenarios where stuff coming over that are not new things could have value. Just want to get your thoughts. Maybe there's another category, or maybe these are not the two, but it sounds like if there's some value use case, there's cheaper fees enable something to happen, and Decentraland, they for some reason they're like, let's use PulseChain because cheaper fees and it makes the product work, whatever. Stuff like that, where there's actually like PulseChain solves a problem for that team. That's one. And then two, the memes. Time to start a new meme at a smaller price. You got the Sheebs, you got the whatever else, whatever other meme tokens. Those are two things. But the first one, what do we have there? Are we just gonna have to wait and find out? Like, is there anything obvious that would benefit? And then what do you think? Or is there any other categories too?
Well, there's a lot of factors at play. Okay, so the memes, sure, they don't really need value. They're barely worth anything already on ETH, right? They're worth like 0.0. Like, you go pick one. And it's like, oh, one token is worth 0.00000, whatever cents. What's funny is on PulseChain, add a couple zeros maybe, and it's worth less.
And can we even support it? Can it go that low?
The degens love that stuff, so they're going to say, "Oh, sweet, look at this, SHIB over here. It doesn't even do anything. Let me buy a bunch of it, right?" So yes, you will have memes that continue to just do whatever they do. Anything that has like an ecosystem behind it, and especially things that have pricing data, Oracle feeds, collateral positions, possible liquidations and such. So the Aves of the world, the Liquidities of the world, Maker, all these Curve, Convex, these sort of protocols, all those are going to die. They're all going to die because they're all reliant on the prices of things over on ETH chain and oracles that are feeding prices to those things on ETH chain. But now, the coins reside on PulseChain and everything's out of whack, and that they just stop working. Okay. And there's no reason to hold those things when the protocol that it was designed to use those tokens in no longer functions. So, those are going to, fail. Jesse just repeated my tweet from yesterday. I didn't read your tweet, but if we're on the same page, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's what he's saying. You're on the same page. Maximus DAO assets and Hex will be part of 1% company. Yeah. So let's do that then. What copied over coins will have? We mentioned Hedron, Maximus. I think that the DAO Maximus DAO assets. Are there other coins that would have value that are copied over? Maybe like Pulse Doge or something, which was made for that. That type of meme. I don't know. What are you looking at in the ecosystem that would be copied over that would have value? From our ecosystem, I guess.
Yeah, because these already have communities that are behind them that are going to set up the liquidity or fix the liquidity. Because look, when the fixer bot does its thing, you may be left with real thin liquidity. So teams may have to add some or incentivize liquidity here and there. But they have communities behind certain tokens, the Richard Hart ecosystem stuff, to include all the Maximus stuff, and Hedron, and Hex, and the PowerCity stuff, and the Fiat stuff, and the Liquid Loan stuff. These all already have communities that are prepared and have already thought out, hey, we're going to get a copy, and here's what we're going to do with it when we get to the other side. But the rest of the ETH world, they don't care. All they know is they get a free copy that they can maybe try to extract some value out. And I actually don't think people are going to be able to extract much value. So Dave, Never Selling is his name on Telegram. Dave Never Selling. When I went through a little bit of a thought experiment of, okay, what does the average holder of Link look like? and looked at some of the top wallet addresses, and it's kind of funny because the liquidity pool on ETH, I forget the size of it, but all it takes is like one of those top 50 wallets to dump a little bit of his link and drain the Uniswap pool if he wanted to. It's like, okay, well, that's scary that can already happen on ETH, but of course, they have a reason not to. Some of those top wallets are exchanges, by the way.
Yeah.
Now, that stuff all copies over to PulseChain, and the fixer bot buys all the liquidity out of that pool, and then it deploys, maybe not even all of it, back into PulseX. So you just thin the token quantity that has to be dumped to send it to zero. Right? So where before, it, like one of the whale guy wallets only had to dump, 10% of his bag to send it to zero. Now, because of how the liquidity is being deployed, now it just takes one of those whale guys to dump like a fraction of a percent to send, link to zero and drain all the pulse out of there. Now, how much value is he going to be able to get? Not very much.
A million pulse.
The experiment we went through with the Kraken wallet showed that I think maybe they'd be able to get like $2,000 worth of stack value pulse or something if they dump their entire stack. So do they have an incentive to do that over $2,000? Probably not. But you could also take a small guy who has, a handful of link, a few hundred, and he could extract like $2 or 20 cents or 10 cents. Is it worth it for him to do that? I don't know. The most important thing is not, are they going to dump? I think we have to be prepared for people to dump their PRC20s. We can incentivize them. We can try and convince them not to dump. But if they do dump, give them other things to play with. Make sure that there's other cool stuff in the ecosystem so that they don't take that pulse that they just acquired from their dumping and just try and go back to the bridge. And hopefully the bridge is expensive enough, because to go to ETH, it's very gas, intensive, right? So if you get these guys who are dumping and they get $1 here, $2 there, 10 cents here, 10 cents there, you may have just trapped them in PulseChain, hopefully, because who would try and bridge back $1 to ETH when it costs, $50 to go back to the bridge?
Yeah.
So you kind of trap them, and then you have a whole bunch of other cool stuff for them to play with. And it's all Richard Hart ecosystem people. Okay. And now you see a lot of the value start flowing towards the Richard Hart ecosystem. And then you start seeing new value come in because they like that stuff. Because they start playing with it, and it's cool.
That's what I thought that would happen too, is it wasn't about, I didn't think it'd be very likely that a lot of existing products would have value on PulseChain. I always thought the narrative was, this is the onboarding. This is, hey, you might as well connect, see what you got, dump it. Hey, you dumped it, you just made a transaction. That means you participate in the network. Maybe you want to look at the coins and see what else is out there. Now you're in, or at least you have a chance to be in. Otherwise, you have to do a lot more steps to be incentivized to do that. Gold Key kind of read my mind on this. I was going to ask this too. What is the case for launching on PulseChain or launching on Ethereum and then getting seeing, I guess, manifesting the value of that coin on PulseChain coming? I mean, I know obviously for liquid loans, PowerCity and stuff, a lot of stuff is made for the particular PulseChain, but other stuff, for example, you saw Fiat just launch on Ethereum. Then they're going to be, I'm pretty sure they're going to launch like another instance of Fiat on PulseChain that's not the copy. I don't think the copy is going to have value, but correct me if I'm wrong. How do you decide whether to do that? What factors make you have advantages launching now and get the copy and use it, converting over?
I think it's simple, right? These are tools. So the Maximus tools are tools that people can, use for their hex. Those tools need to exist on ETH and on PulseChain. So it's quite simple. You launch on ETH too, right? You take Fiat and it's got some tools. It's kind of Aave, but it's got coins that we like too. It's got hex and stuff in there. So yeah, why not launch on ETH? Give the Hexagons something to play with on both chains that hopefully helps our own ecosystem that we like. There are some things that just might not make sense to launch on ETH right now. So if you have like Earn Protocol, that's a collateralized deposition protocol for PulseX, which doesn't exist yet, except on testnets.
What if we launch PulseX on Ethereum?
If
PulseX, it's been floating
PulseX,
around. It's been floating around.
Swapping platform, DEX, launched on Ethereum, and the liquidity, and see, the beauty of PulseX is how it's paired to Pulse and how it has the buy and burn and all this stuff going on. So I just don't see it launching on ETH. It would be cool if Richard did one day say, hey, I'm going to launch PulseX on ETH. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, now you have a reason to also follow along with that with Earn Protocol. And then PortalX. Look, PortalX is on 40 chains, 40 blockchains. So it's
pretty crazy.
Obviously, you need you have tools that are for the coins that people like to use. It doesn't matter what chain they're on, as long as they're on the chain for those coins. And then you've got stuff like PortalX, which just creates a highway of you being able to swap anywhere you want to go, to include bringing people straight into PulseChain very easily.
Let me talk to the chat real quick, and then we'll get into get more into PortalX and PowerCity, because definitely want to cover some stuff on that. I looked at the demo myself that KDP had given. I was like, whoa. And he talked about the 40 chains. But say hi to the chat real quick, because I've been ignoring them because I've been plugged in, because very, very good conversation. I don't even know what this is in reference to, but I thought it was funny. Are we back to coping? I don't know, man. I haven't been coping. I started streaming in a bear market. I don't feel like I've been coping this entire year now. So, no, feel pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Again, I have no idea what that's reference to. I just thought I'd throw it up there. Academicate. How do you pronounce that? Academicated? Academics, something like that. Jesse, give up the guitar. It's been a while. Yeah, what's up with the guitar, Jesse?
It's right next to me.
Okay. He's green screened it. It's he's not doing it right now. But ask him again later. He might pop it out. Hey, PowerCity family, used PortalX yesterday. DC in the sack for sure. All right, Bob Wells, what's up? Pulse Bezos. Let's see. I had a couple questions here. Kamal's fan says, can you ask Jesse why he's always bullish on PulseX? Did he miss the PulseChain sacrifice? I doubt he missed the PulseChain sacrifice. PulseX is just a DEX, that is. Address this, Jesse.
I happen to be in at least the top 40 wallets of both. So I did not miss either one. I'm very bullish on both, right? And I don't know which one I'm more bullish on, really, because here's the interesting thing. To swap, you need the gas coin. And to have a blockchain, you need a place to swap. So you need both. They both have to exist. And I think they're both going to, they both have to do well.
People compare the buy and burn. They compare, L1s, short term versus long term, and all that. But the kind of synergy. Is there a comparison on ETH for the type of synergy we have between PulseChain and PulseX? Like, were they just designed better?
It's impossible. So the synergy,
how well they complement each other.
Or are you talking about all the different protocols?
You could go mechanics. We'll forget community for a moment. Just mechanics.
No, I think there's a lot of first off, there's a lot of communication between most of the founders of stuff that's launching on PulseChain. And there's not a whole lot of overlap in what people are doing. There is some, but you have people that are not necessarily. I think you have a community that's looking for holes to fill, needs on the chain, stuff that needs to exist on a thriving chain to drive adoption, and people want to come over and use that stuff. And ETH is just congested with all sorts of stuff already, where PulseChain is not.
Well, even the pairing too of, do you think the PLS PLSX pair will be, one of the biggest liquidity pool pairs
The
on the decks?
PulseX pair, it will
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
It will be.
That kind of synergy too, I guess I'm kind of pointing at. Like, is there a comparison on ETH is there something? Because
No.
there's not like how big is the ETH uni pair, for example? It's probably not that
Well,
big.
Uni is just a governance token that doesn't do anything.
Well, why is PLSX not a duct taped on token, Jesse? Tell me that.
Well, because Richard doesn't like duct tape on tokens. He likes stuff that has a use case.
It's true. It's a fact. I hear his voice now just saying it so many different streams. I've been doing a bunch of vintage clips, and I came across one recently, which he was I did the Uniswap get your free money, that stream. It was pretty fun to hear him talk about him just to hear him laugh about it and just go through all the greatest hits. It's pretty fun. I got one from Michael Light. We expect to see a DAI pair at mainnet launch. OA bought DAI, I believe. Yeah, OA is one of PulseX holder is one of the largest holders of DAI on Ethereum. Correct me if I'm wrong. How does that play into PulseChain?
It's interesting because he's still going to have the DAI copies, and those DAI copies are no longer redeemable. So even though he's one of the biggest holders, unless he becomes the exit liquidity by pairing that back to something else heavily, giving it value, he just becomes everyone else's exit liquidity, because you can't go redeem it for $1 worth of ETH. You can't go redeem it in the Maker protocol to copy for $1 worth of Pulse. So unless he wants to be the redemption mechanism that everyone's draining, I just don't see that happening. Even I don't think bag size is a factor when it comes to these stable coins. I think those pools will go to zero very fast.
What would a benevolent whale who had a lot of PDAI, what would be a good move for them to do if they loved pulsegons and hexagons, if they had that much PDAI?
I don't know the answer to that, right? Because if that guy were to dump all his PDAI, then he's just acquiring Pulse or the ERC20s or whatever out of a pool before other people. So is that a benevolent act? Or is that like, oh, I just front ran you with all my DAI? Okay. Or I don't know. No expectations. I just don't think, I actually don't think anything should happen with all that DAI. Let it sit there. Let the community figure it out with their stuff. And then bridge in some, which of course I talk about bridges a lot. There's risk with bridges, and these things become a wrap thing that has usually thinner liquidity than back on ETH. So, but we have to have them. We have to have stuff bridged into the chain. And that's what people should be focusing on. How do we get people to bridge in value to PulseChain, period? Whether that's USDC or DAI or ETH or whatever they want, people need to be able to bridge new value in, because everything else is just a photocopy. We need actual, real, redeemable, swappable, send back to exchangeable value brought into PulseChain to give PulseChain value, period.
Do you think just one thing I thought of, it'd be funny if this was like this backdoor move to insert back into the PHEX and EHEX parity conversation. Could the DAI be used as that? Is that like one trick up his sleeve? I'm not sure how could you pair just PHEX with DAI, EHEX with, do something in that to make them have more value? Interesting.
But that doesn't mean that the DAI is going to maintain peg. Okay, so if it doesn't maintain peg, what happens to the thing it's paired to? That also goes down.
It's true. But do you think PDAI will be dead on PulseChain? DEAD. PDAI, will it be dead? Well, you think we just got to kind of wait and see how people feel about stable coins being copied over, or see who's bridging into them?
I do think PDI will die, or PDI will die. That's funny. Yeah,
that's why I spelled it.
I think it'll die. It's no longer redeemable.
Yeah. Or good
You
way to spell
cannot. In the liquidation functions over in Maker, those are all going to get screwed up. The auction process is no longer there. There's nothing that keeps it where it's supposed to be. So, do you want to hold copied stablecoins? Whether that's DAI or LUSD or it's USDC or USDT, are you the one who's going to buy that to keep it at $1? Because I'm not.
If I was a top 40 wallet, I might have a bone in this fight. Probably not.
I'm not going to buy. Okay, so I'm not going to buy a copied stablecoin, period. I'm not going to buy it from an OA wallet. I'm not going to buy it from you. I'm not going to buy it from Uniswap. Because then I would just become the exit liquidity for the millions of people who also hold that, who learn about PulseChain, who are like, oh, this thing's not redeemable, and they dump it.
Take one or two more questions. We'll move on to PowerCity. But Mr. Chuck, since all ETH holders get PLS at the fork, do all ETH validators automatically become PLS validators? Interesting question.
The answer is no.
Yeah. It's a little counterintuitive, but yeah, the answer is no. But that's
I mean, no, because they still have to fire up all their equipment. And
right. It's not going to work, but they still have I wonder what happens to. Okay, so they still have the deposits and stuff locked up. I
have no idea how they withdraw their stakes. They're going to have to figure out how to withdraw their stakes, call those contracts. I don't know.
I think we covered this, but let's see. Mike J. is the fixer bot actually buying ERC20s from the pool? 30 seconds. Fixer bot. What does it do real quick? Just and we'll move on.
Yeah, it has to buy, right? So when you have a liquidity provider position, it's your keys, your coins, it's your smart contract. And like somebody would have to have your seed phrase to steal your coins from you, right? There's a smart contract that assigns that position to you. So the only way for the fixer bot to acquire those tokens is to go through the terms of that smart contract. And the terms say it can buy, any entity can buy from that pool. It has, for it to acquire the tokens, it has to buy tokens from you.
Don't tell me what my intentions are, Jesse. I intend to do everything. It's going to be some interesting chaos. What's the random number generator term? Entropy. The entropy is going to be entropy in the universe for this launch is going to be something else. It'll be fun. Hexfetti. Oh, here's interesting from Michael Light. According to Circle's TOS, USDC will be locked on an unsupported chain the moment it launches. Is that in the code? Interesting if it is. Or just that's the button they're going to press according to their stuff, their print.
So I've actually read that. Okay, so I dug through their terms of service. Redeemability will. I don't think they can lock the token. They can lock the tokens if they want. But the line you're referring to, go back and read it, because I think they were talking about the redeemability, locking out the redeemability of that USDC that comes from a different chain other than the ones they support.
Interesting.
They can't lock it in your wallet and prevent you.
Right.
Can they prevent you from doing a send? Maybe. But even Richard said you start to get into some legal troubles when they prevent people from being able to do things with stuff that belongs to them.
I wonder, can an ERC20, can you make it not sendable? Because I know there's contracts you interact with that can tell you, no, I'm not going to do this thing. But I guess there are ways to make it not sendable, but they're frowned upon because.
You ever notice when you do anything at all with USDC that you get like anything at all, even a simple send, how look on Etherscan, everything gets routed through these weird USDC contracts. You're like, oh, what's going on here? It was just a simple send. Everything gets routed through their thing. They can blacklist things. They can turn things off. And I remember Richard talking about a time where they actually did turn something off on a chain, and then they got sued, and it became a big deal. So I don't think that they'll actually turn things off and lock things in people's wallets, because they've already been down that road before and it didn't go well for them. But they will for sure turn off the redeemability of that back for $1.
Makes sense. What's up, Hex Famous? Welcome. Oh, Simba. They're famous, likable. Yeah, I haven't seen the one troll I had for a while. Where is he? I forgot his name. He was super funny though. But Simba, he just shows up every once in a while and says funny stuff too. So will there be a native stablecoin? Yeah. What? Last one, and then we'll move on. Stablecoin on PulseChain.
Yeah, there'll be 3. So there'll be PXDC stablecoin, there'll be USDL stablecoin, and then there'll be the co-stable dollar.
Go. Swear last one. This is just interesting because there's 2 parts. So RH position large die enough to collapse a protocol, loose peg. If he moved it in LUSD or USDT. So what could you see a move from the PulseX, the largest holder of DAI in ETH, getting the P DAI, just to beat this dead horse one more time? Is there a move they could make to put it into a stablecoin that may be used and useful on PulseChain that would be good for the ecosystem?
How?
Well, here one suggestion is moving it into LUSD, USD, something like that, or
moving it into something that doesn't exist till after the chain exists. So,
one of the 3 you mentioned,
somebody would have to create the liquidity pool first of DAI paired to PXDC, for example. Who's going to create that liquidity pool? I mean, why would you create that liquidity pool? People are just going to dump their DAI for the other thing and send one of them to 0. Like, again, anybody who creates that LP becomes the exit liquidity. So I literally don't think there's a play.
Food for thought. Anyone out there who's thinking about all these moves? Sure, we'll be talking about it until, man, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what the moves actually happening. If anything cool happens, I feel like something cool is going to happen. Some of the benevolent well moves, at least. But I'm going to pop on over here. PortalX. I'll drop this link in the chat. And Jesse, you want to walk me through, tell me what to click on or look at, and I'll click around here?
Yeah, sure. So let's go over some of the safety functions first. All right. So can't see here. Well, once you're connected in, you see some of them. You're not connected in, and I don't expect you to. So built into this, when you connect in, there's a revoke function. Revokes are important. Anytime you interact with a token on any platform, whether that's go.hex.com or it's Uniswap, anytime you interact, besides a simple send, you have to allow that dApp access to your token that you're trying to interact with. So if you're on Uniswap and you wanted to swap out of some hex, you would have to open an approval for Uniswap to use your hex. Now, usually by default, an approval will put in like a ridiculous quantity, like millions and millions of tokens or billions, or in some cases you go to a dApp, and when you open that approval for that dApp to use your token, it's infinite. And there are cases recently where, like SushiSwap, where there was a backdoor where people could just drain all the tokens from people's wallets because people left open permissions to tokens. People don't realize this. Like, you go to Uniswap, you open a permission, you do your swap, and then you leave. You forgot a step. You didn't close that permission. You didn't revoke it. And it costs gas to do that, which sucks. But We don't like to see anybody with open permissions on their tokens because bad things can happen. And because we're an aggregator of all sorts of different platforms, like, what if SushiSwap was one of them? And we allowed somebody to trade through SushiSwap, and then later, they had tokens that disappeared. Now, that wouldn't be our fault. They interacted directly with SushiSwap, but we built a tool directly in PortalX. When you connect in, you'll see it. Revoke, it's right there at the top, and you can revoke all permissions on your wallet address. You may be surprised when you see that you have way more than you thought you had. You might do it for the first time. It'll scan through, and you'll see, oh my gosh, I have 100 open permissions on this wallet. That's ridiculous. You got to go through one at a time and revoke all those permissions. It's good practice. Do that all the time. Whenever you do a swap or a function, go back behind after you do that swap and revoke permissions for that token. Right. So we wanted to build that right in. It uses the revoke. It interacts with revoke, .cash. It's all the same, but it's built right into our front end.
Can you do like a real quick pitch for PortalX, just so people who haven't seen it before know what we're talking about?
Yeah. So PortalX is an aggregator. It's think of it like a search engine. When
like
you go to PortalX
or a 1inch,
it actually uses those as part of their inside of their searches. So it's even a little better than them because it's aggregating them as well as everything else.
Wow.
1inch is a little biased, in my opinion. 1inch is a little biased. They have an aggregator, but they steer everyone towards their pools because they also run their own liquidity pools. All right. So like oftentimes you'll find when you're swapping on 1inch, like, why is my trade? Why are they normally recommending I go through 1inch? Right. Look, our thing will scan dozens and dozens of dexes and pools, and it will find it's a search engine, and it'll list out all the best trade routes. It'll list all of them, but it'll just put them in order for you of the best bang for your buck. And it'll put, the best trade route at the top. And it'll say, oh, your trade is going to be routed starting with this token. It's going to go through 1inch, and it's going to go, here. And then it's going to give you this many tokens out of the other side. Okay. And then you say, oh, that rate compared to all the rest of these pools is way better. And I have no problem with using that DEX. So you click, and it's interacting directly with that DEX. You do the swap, and you get your tokens. So it's like a search engine. It's an aggregator. Now it's more powerful than that, though. It'll actually search across multiple blockchains. So right now there's 40 different blockchains, and it will scan through all the available bridges out there. It'll find a route of the token you have on one chain. It'll search around and find the best route so that you can have the most value on the chain you're trying to get to. So there you're on Ethereum as your starting chain, and you can just click some random token there as your starting token. Cool. Yep, click some random pick a token.
There we go.
Sure. And then go down to here. This is cool. You want to click at the plus 31 at the bottom. Let's just pretend you wanted to go to Bitcoin. You can actually, click Bitcoin.
That's cool.
It's going to ask for your Bitcoin address. You're going to paste that there. It's going to tell you the rate. All right, so that's not a real address or whatever, right? Now type in a quantity of hex. So, type something in there. All right, it's searching, and it tells you for that many hex, it's going to give you 0.013177 Bitcoin. And
dude, that's cool.
Address, and it says it's going to route this through Change Now for you. And you click, swap, and Next thing you know, you got some Bitcoin in your Bitcoin wallet. Now you can go.
I would never do this trade, but that is very cool to exist.
Right.
I would never trade
You
my
can
Hex
go
for
the other
Bitcoin.
direction too, right?
There you go.
And you can go across to privacy chains. You can go across to other EVM chains, and it will always list out the trade route that it's going to take you through, and to give you the best deal. Now we're going to connect this into PulseChain when PulseChain goes live. And
I found the correct number of digits for the valid address now. It's the null address, right?
All right. So you're gonna send some Bitcoin to the burn address or to the null address.
I'm going to trade Bitcoin and then burn.
Oh, into Hex, and then send that to the null address.
Yeah. Transaction details, nice. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, could you talk about this too? So protocol fee, why is it 0%? Is it always that way, or is it
no?
different?
So check it out. It's finding you the best trade route. You're saving a little bit of money by doing that, because you don't have to search across 40 chains, dozens and dozens of dexes, do dozens of swaps and different gas fees to try and get the best rate. This is all finding all that for you and saving you a little money on the front end. So in exchange for that, there's a small protocol fee, which is 0% right at the moment. Now, we will turn this on soon. I don't know what that looks like. 2 weeks, a month. I have no idea. But those fees will flow. A large percentage of those flow to the stakers of Watt token, which is on PulseChain. So if you think about this, what's happening is we've built an aggregator that's available across 40 different blockchains, all the different dexes, finds people the best routes for their trade. Anybody can use it. You don't even have to be a hexagon. And to use this service, you're feeding and flowing money into PulseChain. Where does that money end up going? Probably into the things we like on PulseChain, such as Hex and PulseX and Pulse and so on and so forth. Whatever the stakers of Watt enjoy putting their coins into. So it's a cool service. It brings value to the chain. It also makes it very easy for people to come into PulseChain with just a couple clicks of a button. And beautiful. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's frankly, it's awesome, and I'm biased. But if I wasn't biased, I'd still say it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've actually went through the options, and this is cool. So different routes. Is there no AML, no KYC to use this?
0 KYC. Okay. Oh, there is some more. Oh, wait, there's more. Limit orders. You can set limit orders on here.
All right, let's see. And you can do it cross. Oh, can only same.
You cannot do limit orders across chain. You can only do limit orders if you.
I'm only using this if I can do cross chain limit orders, Jesse. So go back to the drawing board and figure it out, okay? Just kidding. Let me get on Ethereum. Scroll down, just type it in. X to what do we want? Let's just do Hedron. And then, I don't know, just typing some numbers around. Hold on. So we're doing a limit order for.
Yes. Click the button set to market real quick. That'll tell you what the current right now rate is. And you just say to yourself, oh, well, I want a better rate than that. So let me adjust the number to what I actually want. Okay. You select how long you want it to go for. Like, do you want it to expire same day or whenever?
1 minute.
You can customize it. If this limit order doesn't fill in 1 minute, I'm out.
I have high expectations of this. You set the bar very high of the network as well as the yeah.
So then you would set that limit order. There's no fee. You simply sign a message to set the limit order. The buyer pays the fee. Like the guy on the other end of that swap that you're looking for, he's the one that pays the gas. Isn't that interesting?
That is
So
interesting. Does it
you
not
set
work that
limit
way
orders.
with?
Now, if you want to cancel a limit order, you do have to pay a gas fee to cancel. But to create a limit order, there's 0 gas fee. Isn't that wild?
Wow.
You can get partially filled, by the way. So if you wanted to swap out of 5,555 hex, but there's a buyer out there at your price and he only wants 1,000 hex, you can get partially filled. Or if you spend most of the hex out of your wallet and there's only 10 hex left in your wallet, but you have a limit order for 5,000 to sell 5,555 hex, if your specific price target gets hit, it'll just partially fill. It'll just take those 10 hex and swap them to Hedron because that's all you have left.
Gotcha. I wanted to ask too. So, limit order versus LP. Can you do LP on this? Are there pools on this one?
Nope, you cannot LP in here.
Okay. So is that the difference? Maybe that's a good question to frame too. Is what is the difference between using this versus Uniswap versus Matcha? Like, what does this have that others don't, and what does this not have the others do have?
So this is okay. This is using you're actually interacting directly with some of that stuff. So for example, the limit order contracts, these are the limit orders that you're looking at now. Those are 1-inch limit orders. All right. The front end is pointing to the back end to their code. Okay. So like there's kind of a synergy there. As far as is it better than Matcha? Well, we aggregate through a lot of things. We search through a lot of different dexes. And I have compared Matcha to what we're doing, and yes, rates are very similar. Where does your fee go in Matcha? Who knows where the fee goes in Matcha? Where does the fee go when using this? PulseChain. And it's cooler. And it's built by community members. So it has more functions, more features. It's got the revoke thing. It's got the limit orders built in. It's easier and crisper and cleaner than Matcha. And it aggregates way more than they do. And it goes cross-chain. So that's the difference between us and Matcha.
So you could use this for everything except doing LP. Is that correct?
You can use this for everything except LP. Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. And when you said the fee goes to PulseChain, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So when you see that protocol fees start kicking off, imagine PulseChain being live, and all those fees get routed straight into PulseChain to the Watt stakers. Those fees getting cross-chain swapped through into PulseChain and land as PLS, for example, in the Watt stakers' wallets in their staking positions. They're growing PLS, buying PLS. It's a continuous buy pressure of Pulse. What happens when things constantly get bought? Like when Pulse is constantly bought? Am I going the right direction on camera?
Right. I think we get the gist either way. Yeah. Okay. So the fees from this go into buying PLS, is it just like a market buy for PLS that rewards Watt holders? Is that correct?
Yeah. Watt stakers are the recipients.
Stakers.
Watt stakers are the recipients of the fees.
Which are the fees?
And Watt stakers exist on PulseChain. Which means what? Well, the fees are actually collected in a variety of things. So if somebody is doing swaps from AVAX to Binance Smart Chain, okay, there's actually going to be some, AVAX token, for example, that might be collected as a fee. And what happens to that? It gets routed through, brought into PulseChain, swapped into Pulse, distributed to the Watt stakers. So many things are happening. You're bridging value into the chain. You're thickening that liquidity, but you're also distributing and buying Pulse up and distributing it to hexagons. And they can do whatever they want with it, right? So
Very cool.
it's awesome. This is, in my opinion, again, I'm biased, the number one tool for driving adoption and growth in PulseChain.
I'm definitely impressed. Wow, I certainly hope so. And that's PortalX, everyone. Let me get to questions. It's that is cool. I'm actually with 2-1. I know in the greens room you asked me if I tried it yet. I'm like, oh, not yet. And now I'm like, okay, Jesse, next time you talk to me, I will have tried it. I can guarantee you that. I may even start using it. You never know. Let's see. You got a couple questions.
Most people who have tried it, like if you go on our Telegram and you just start reading, there's not a single person who doesn't like it. And most of those people have said, this is what I'm going to use from here forward. Well, look, it's still your keys, your coins. We don't hold anything. We don't have any tokens. We're not providing the liquidity. It's a search engine. It finds you the best rate. There's a small fee attached to that happens to bridge value into PulseChain and distribute that to community members, right? It's pretty cool.
Nvidia and Hexafy. Can you talk about the tokens utility? Are you
this
talking
doesn't
about
have a token?
What? Okay.
Oh, what token?
Mm-hmm. So maybe so the previous question was, is stack still open? Does that give you nuance? Is that the what they're talking about?
Yeah, sacrificenow.io is still open. That's correct. And it's always 1-to-1. There are some people who were the earliest of the earliest, barely any, who got a 2-to-1, but that's like a fraction of a percent of the people. It's been 1-to-1 ever since. Nobody should ever feel like they're missing out.
And what is it 1-to-1? Is that what is it for? What you trade what for what? What for what? WHAT for WATT.
The details are on sacrificenow.io. All that means is the strength of your sacrifice versus how many tokens you're contributing to that sacrifice.
I mean, is it 1-to-1? Okay, so it's not
1-to-1. So
it's not 1 ETH for $1,
right? For example.
Okay. There's a difference between 1 ETH and then 1 hex for 1-to-1 for what tokens. It's not that. It's not that, everyone. Yeah, sacrificenow.io if anyone's interested. Okay. And tokens utility sounds like staking and earning fees.
Well, we have many tokens with utility, and I think that all tokens that ever launch should have utility. So you stake Watt token for a percentage of all the fees of the stuff that we're building and releasing. By the way, I think hopefully this weekend or early next week, you're actually going to see some other protocols that we have reached 100% on get dropped, which are awesome. Awesome. To include our core. Our core is where you take your Watt, you stake it, and it accumulates you the fees from the stuff we've built. Your stakes are transferable. You can sell those NFTs if you choose, so you don't lose your position. You can actually have greater value in selling your NFT should you choose to do that. You also have incentivized liquidity providing. You can stake LP tokens in there for a percentage of all the fees as well, right? So you will see, actually go to PowerCity YouTube, you'll see a demonstration of our core. Overlapping with this video, Long Vacation, one of the other founders, he did a community milestone video, and he also did a demonstration walkthrough video of our core staking platform, which is 100%. There might be a couple of small color changes or this or that here on the front end that we decided to do before mainnet, but it's pretty much done, right? And we're going through our final testing now. The community will get to play with it soon. I'm hoping within just a handful of days, the community will get to play with it.
2 more weeks. 2 more weeks.
How long? Okay, so first let me finish that question though. So that's just one thing that has utility, the Watt token or the Watt paired to Pulse.
LP token. Both of those have utility. You can stake them for the fees. We also have Earn Protocol, which is our stablecoin lending platform for PulseX, right? You can collateralize your PulseX, mint some PXDC. You can stake that.
Just note on that too. If anyone wants to know more about Earn and PXDC, I did a stream with Jesse a month ago to search RHMax, PowerCity, or just ask Jesse, and the stream is about that one too, to go into detail about all this stuff.
Right. And look, visit our website, powercity.io. There's tons of information in there. You can find our white paper, our light papers in there. And everything that we launch has utility and brings value to PulseChain. How long for the PortalX swap bridge? So I have to hammer this home. We are not a bridge. We aggregate and find bridges.
We build bridges.
Bridging because it's a search engine that looks for the best trade route for you. So, all right. So now that we have that cleared, how long before our aggregator works on PulseChain mainnet? It shouldn't be that long. You may not see all of the functions work when we launch right away. So maybe, for example, maybe limit orders aren't available like the same day that we launch, or open it up. Look, it's already launched. So click on, go back to swaps on there. This thing's already live on 40 chains. So all you'll see is, see the plus 31? PulseChain will be one of them.
It'll be right here, right? It'll be PulseChain, then Ethereum.
So we may have the ability to put PulseChain at the top and Hex at the top, and maybe the stuff we like at the top.
We would like that, Jesse. We would like that very much.
We have to think about that, right? Because, and maybe some input from the community too. Do we want this thing to be enticing to people outside of our community so that they get their feet wet and then they find us and come into our community? Or do we just want to stack up all our coins at the top and like maybe people already don't like us, so then people don't,
I think there's a balance. I think you can still make PulseChain and Hex a first-class citizen without it being alienating and it getting in the way.
Right.
I think there's a way to do it.
Right.
Let's see. One more question and we'll wrap up. Sorry, everyone, I can't get to all the questions, but I did want to get to this one before we wrap up. PulseZenpai. Shout out to PulseZenpai. Got a lot of good numbers videos on PulseChain stuff. Is there a dashboard to see what total sacrifice is so far?
Yeah, there's a community built hexpulse.info, and they have all the analytics on there.
Yeah, that's right. The Pulse,
Hexpulse.info.
Hexpulse.info. That's right. That's where you can search by that. I cracked up at this one. Put us on page 201. I get the gist. It's actually number 201 on page 2. I think page 2. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Why don't we just put, BSC on the last page of our thing?
I was gonna say, yeah, it's Tron's getting pretty prominently promoted right now, and nothing against Tron there. Fast Abdul says, "Press like, I have your cat. Don't hurt the cat, Fast. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt anyone's cat. But if you don't want your cat to be hurt, you know what to do, everyone." Just kidding. Thank you, everyone in the chat. So fun. Great stream, Jesse, as usual. What do you want to take us out on? What dinner's on the table for me? What's good? What do you want people to know? What do you want to send us off on?
Well, we kind of talked about a lot. Look, SAC is open, sacrificenow.io. Nobody needs you to participate. It's a very voluntary thing. Do you want to be early and show support for your belief in a free market or not? Right? Are there benefits to SAC? Sure. Usually people who sacrifice things in life experience good things later. So that's always on the table. I'm really excited that we had a really clean launch of PortalX. Went off pretty much without a hitch. Within the first 12 hours, actually, we did update. We did our first update already. We added in like another 10 chains. Like, oh, well, let's add these other chains in here, before we get too far down the road and people are begging us for them, right? So we did have like an update we pushed like even really early on, and you're going to continue to see that. The code is immutable. The things you're interacting with are, so when you swap on there, and you're swapping either on Uniswap because you selected that, or you're swapping through 1inch because you selected that, or whatever. Look, you're interacting directly with those contracts. Our front end that collects all this data and makes it so you can find the best trade will continuously be updated with more and more chains, more and more tokens, making it just easier and a better highway into PulseChain, right? So you'll always see continuous updates in that regard. I'm excited for everyone to see our core staking platform. It's really neat. There's some cool functions inside of there too. We have zapper functions where you can automatically zap tokens into LP positions, and you can wrap your pulse and unwrap your pulse if you want. You can stake and unstake. You get your NFTs. You can look at all these NFT positions and go do things with them. There's tons of stuff you can do, and the interface is just as clean and simple as you saw with PortalX swap.io. And you can check that out on our YouTube. And real soon, just a handful of days, I'm hoping, and everyone's going to see that, and they'll be able to play with that and give us feedback from their experience on testnet. Testnet V4, hopefully. But
yeah,
maybe we'll launch it on testnet V3 because 2 weeks usually gets kicked down the road like a can over and over.
2 weeks, 2 months. It's been 2 years, but we haven't given up yet.
Earn protocol is the interface is very clean. You're gonna see everything pretty much on one page. So instead of a whole bunch of different tabs to click on, where can I create a trove or a vault? Where can I stake my earn tokens? Like, everything's not all over the place. It's all on one single page, nicely formatted, easy to find, just like you see with PortalX swap.io. Very simple interface. We want to create the least barrier to entry to people coming into PulseChain and enjoying cool stuff and interacting with the Richard Hart ecosystem. So I can't wait for y'all to play with that stuff too.
Definitely excited myself. Yeah, beautiful stuff. We've definitely been waiting on a lot of the products have been building on PulseChain to have something to play with, either on Ethereum or near launch. And man, PortalX looks fun. Definitely, I'm gonna give it a try too. And the cross chain. I mean, not that everyone does a lot of cross chain stuff, but I think for the adoption and onboarding, I think that's going to be huge. And then who knows? Maybe I think I saw it use Change Now, and I remember a lot of people use that to get stuff on Ethereum Fair and Ethereum Proof of Work and stuff. Yeah. So that's interesting, that the integration and the bridging that part, that was no KYC stuff too. So it's like you're all building it right. Definitely looking forward to it. At JustAskJesse on Twitter if you have more questions in the chat. And yeah, I think that's all we got for today. Jesse, I appreciate your time as always.
Yeah.
And
thank you. You see how tired I am, guys?
Look at that. Look at those bags. You gotta do a couple masks right there.
4 hours of sleep. The whole team. We're up like day and night trying to make this stuff perfect for y'all. I hope we're doing a good job. So come check us out. Give us your feedback, because we only build what you guys want us to build. So come check us out.
Maybe one day you'll take a long vacation and get some rest.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Scivive and 5555. We are out.